and we make it easy to implement the options you choose. Let me do the heavy lifting for you. You've got enough to deal with right now. If your employees are important to your business and you want to keep them and save money, Clear Insight Benefits is here to help. Let's set up a go-to meeting or a call at clearinsightbenefits.com. There's not much time left to prepare yourself for a successful 2021. Visit clearinsightbenefits.com.
Get the best sleep of your life. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off during their holiday sale.
8:37 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time and Jim.
Inbound Kennedy traffic is slow from Cumberland to Harlem, from Sayre to Montrose, and the division into the Burns Circle. Trip time is 26 minutes, O'Hare to downtown, 13 from Montrose, 10 on the express lanes. Outbound, 20 minutes downtown to the airport. Inbound Eisenhower, delays start at North Avenue. Looking at a drive time of 35 minutes, 390 to downtown. Outbound 28. Inbound Stevenson, delays begin at Central, 33 minutes, 355 to Lakeshore Drive. Outbound 28. The earlier delays on I-55 around 126 are gone. Inbound Ryan, 20 minutes, 95th to downtown. Northbound Lakeshore Drive has heavy traffic from the Stevenson to before Roosevelt. Crash in center lane. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. In our AM 560 Weather Center, partly cloudy, highs in the middle 80s. 70 right now. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and we find that NBA playoff ratings are down 23%, lowest watched in 5 years.
I tried to watch last night. Did you? I couldn't.
No.
I couldn't last 2 minutes, and I had to turn the station.
The league has tried to blame the coronavirus since its effects. However, Sports Business Daily noted that the ratings for last season were also bad. They lost 12% of their viewerships last year. That was pre-pandemic. Something else may be afoot. Interestingly as well, Showbuzz noted that the league lost 28% in the important 18 to 49 age bracket.
Yeah, because they're trying to shove their political agenda down our throats. I just want to escape and watch sports. I felt the same way with the whole, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. When all the players were wearing pink, I'm like, that's fine. I'm all about, getting mammograms and all that. But I just want to watch sports. I want to escape everything else. This should be enjoyable, and it's not when they have an agenda.
LeBron James, King James, is the chief woke officer of the NBA. So he's been freewheeling in his opining on matters race-related, particularly involving police. And so this response from Patrick Hampton I found interesting. Patrick Hampton is a commentator at Patriot Post. Dear LeBron James, you don't speak for me and my boys. I'm a father of 4 brown boys. It's my responsibility as a father to protect and serve them. There's no need for police in my home because, as the father, I'm the authority in my home. Police are needed where fathers and law and order are absent. When there's no father to protect and serve children, police have to move into that community to protect and serve. Where there is no father or authority in the home or neighborhood, young men rebel. This is why police are having a hard time gaining compliance with fatherless boys on the side of the road. They refuse to sit down, be quiet, and comply. Why? Because the police are the first men to tell them no and assert their authority. These boys have spent years under no one's authority. That's the main problem. So please don't speak for me and my boys. Me and my boys are not terrified of the police because we respect the police and accept their authority. That's because they first had to respect me as their father and accept my authority. Actually, one of them wants to be a police officer. You, LeBron, are trying to destroy that dream by painting police officers in a negative light when most are good guys. Stop blaming the police and help build better fathers. Stop saying police need more training and train more dads and young black boys on the rule of law and police protocols. Patrick Hampton. Yeah, That was posterizing LeBron James on the issue of family in general and black families in particular, wasn't it? For more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined again by our friend Andrew Klavan, podcaster, Another Kingdom. Third and final season is out. Screenwriter for the movie Gosnell, the trial of America's biggest serial killer, and noted Hollywood screenwriter and novelist beyond that. Andrew, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
So how about LeBron James in particular, and feel free to weigh in on the NBA, too. I don't know if you were part of the attrition in viewership or not, but, feel free.
I definitely am. When they said they were boycotting the games, I thought, well, you're just joining me. I've been boycotting the games ever since you started kneeling for the flag. I'm a big NFL fan and an NBA fan, but I'm not going to watch millionaire athletes kneel when they play the national anthem. I'm not going to watch them wearing the Black Lives Matter jerseys that are essentially the sign of a Marxist, violent, terrorist organization with a clever name, but still. And it's I think what LeBron is suddenly bumping into is the systemic prejudice in this country against mouth-flapping millionaires who don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. LeBron James and the NBA apologized to China for criticizing them. And China is a slave state. China is, interning its citizens, its minority citizens. It has forcefully sterilized women. Nothing like that is happening in this country. And in fact, what we're dealing with, what that letter says, that letter you read is a heartbreaking letter because it's a voice that has essentially been censored out of existence in the news media. But that is the problem. That's where the problem is. You mentioned that I'm a crime writer, a mystery writer, and I've visited a lot of prisons. And when you go from cell to cell to cell in a prison, the most depressing place on earth, by the way, a prison. When you go from cell to cell, if you're a racist, if all you see is race, you might see, I see a lot of brown skin, a lot of brown people in here. But if you're really looking past that, at the truth, what you're seeing is fatherless child in every single cell. A fatherless child is one of the people most vulnerable to crime, to suicide, to drug use, to every form of dysfunction. And this is key. I mean, it really is important. In 1950, a black woman was more likely to be married than a white woman. Back then, black illegitimacy was at around 20%. It's now at over 75%. It is now worse than when Democrat slave owners were actually intentionally breaking up families. Okay? And what's the cause of that? Well, one correlation is with Great Society programs. And when Great Society programs were put in place, Democrats were warned by other Democrats that this was going to destroy the black family and that the black family was essentially essential to increasing the wealth and middle-class existence of black lives. And they didn't listen. And they didn't listen for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons they didn't listen was because of feminism. When they said, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Well, a lot of those kids in prison could use a bicycle because you need fathers in the home. That's what the guy said about when you can't deal with a father, then you can't deal with the cops.
Well,
and this is the destruction of the family. Yeah.
Right. Don't you think there's a little rush to judgment, though, by the NBA sitting out games for Jacob Blake? They didn't even look at his arrest record. I mean, he beat up the baby mama 2 or 3 times a year when he drank heavily. This, according to the police complaint. He raped her while her child was in bed with her. He stole a debit card from her, took $1,000 out, and then took her car. And he's not a model citizen. He hasn't had a job, and she doesn't even know when the last time he had a legal job.
Well, this is a problem that Candace Owens has pointed to, too. I mean, when you put up pictures of George Floyd wearing a halo and having wings, here's a guy who held a gun on a pregnant woman while his gang home invaded her house. Same thing as you're saying with Jacob Blake. And by the way, this doesn't mean the police in any instance acted well. You have bad police just like you have bad everything else. But a little bit of nuance. What does it take? What does it take for a journalist, a so-called journalist, to say, let's get the facts here. Let's find it before we come on and say, the police shot a man in the back 7 times while his kids were watching, instead of, the police shot a man wielding a knife before he could get in a van and drive away with children inside the van, which was another way of looking at the same situation. What would it take, journalists, to just hold back? And even with this other guy in Kenosha who shot 3 people, who's a white guy, and they start saying, he's a white supremacist and he went to a Trump rally. again, what does it take? These are so-called journalists. What would it take for them to say, okay, gang, this is a bad incident, this is an ugly incident, let's find out what happened. Let's send, I don't know, maybe a reporter to find out what the facts are before everybody goes nuts. But obviously, they are fueling the violence, they're fueling the rage, they're fueling the narrative, which they've been selling for years, that America is a racist country. And then when the violence takes place, they try to hide it. They tell us it's mostly peaceful violence. And then when they can't hide it anymore, well, okay, there's violence, but it's Trump's fault. And, again, what does it take for them to do their jobs, to commit not to a narrative, but to the truth, to commit to getting the facts and letting us decide what the narrative is? And they've lost that plot when it comes to journalism. It's now so obvious that we really are a country without a press at this point, and it's very, very disturbing, and it has a very bad effect, and it's unpatriotic of journalists to just fight their corner, because what we need are the facts, so we, the people, can make the decisions.
Patrick Hampton, his piece talking, I like the way he phrased it, talking about these kids that grew up in fatherless homes. They've never been told no by anybody. The first person that told them no is a police officer, and thus they rebel. There's something else, though, in terms of pathologies afoot that I don't think is talked about enough. And LeBron James is actually a good poster child for this, which is, and I do mean child intellectually, which is victimhood as synonymous with heroism. Much like tolerance equals acceptance equals celebration these days, victimhood is heroic. And LeBron James, people forget this, 3 years ago, he claimed to be the subject of a hate crime that was very dubious in nature. Somebody spray painted, allegedly, on his $20 million Brentwood home some racial epithets. He wasn't there. His family wasn't there. Nobody saw it. He heard about it. He compared himself to Emmett Till after that event.
What?
And it strikes me, that's 3 years ago now. And, the one of the most recognizable, powerful athletes in the world still isn't satisfied, has a higher pedestal to aspire to, and that is victim. Even LeBron James, he's not fully actualized if he's not a victim as well.
It's really true. I mean, he said, I'm scared as a black man. I thought, at what point are you scared? When you step out of your mansion into your limousine to go to a stadium where people are cheering your name because they love you so much? When are you scared exactly? Michelle Obama the same way, saying people ignore black women. This is the most famous woman in the country, beloved by the people who bought her books in droves. It is something that has been sold, not just to black people, but to black people first and foremost, is the idea that victimhood is heroism. And it's a perversion of Christianity. It's a perversion for having care for the victim, for having care for the underclass and the poor. But it's a perversion of that into elevating it into some kind of heroic status. And I've run into this a lot, talking to powerful, famous, wealthy black people who immediately confront me with their victimhood. And I confront them about it face to face. And I just say, you're talking to the wrong guy because I don't feel that way. And a lot of times, they sort of blink and wake up out of it. It's like a trance. It's just something they've learned to do to maneuver their way through a white majority world. It's a bad strategy because what does it do? It makes you feel that you are walking in a country full of enemies, when in fact the exact opposite of this is the case. This is a country that now, despite its historic racism, its historic institutional racism, which was a real thing back in the day, but this is a country where people really would like to see everybody succeed. It's the only, what other white majority country has elected twice a black head of state? I mean, where else has that happened? And I know a lot of black people are feeling this because I can see it in their arts. They're starting to talk about assimilation. They're starting to talk about, what it feels like to become part of the majority world. And that's why I think the left is in a panic, because once they lose blacks, once blacks stop feeling like victims, once they stop feeling like outsiders, there won't be a Democrat Party.
I was thinking that in terms of responding to the rioters and the violence on the streets, we need to use our brains, not our brawn, and you don't want to fight this out in the streets. But then Graceland got hit, Andrew, and I don't know if I don't know if you want to take up arms with me to go down and defend Graceland. But when when Graceland gets hit, I think all bets are off. I mean, you can take the Jefferson Memorial, you can take down the Washington Monument. You don't touch the King's premises.
And it's outside wall. It's destroyed. You got to see it, Andrew, if you haven't seen it. It's disgusting what they did to it.
Really? Well, I mean, you've got a panel in Washington, D.C., basically naming, suspicious persons who shouldn't be honored, like Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. It is an assault on American culture and all the things that are so wonderful about this country. And it's happening while people are literally fighting for their freedom in Hong Kong, waving the American flag. So it's not just a national disgrace. It's an international disgrace. It's depriving people of the inspiration of America. It's depriving people of the brightest beacon of freedom on earth. It's depriving people of the greatest beacon of freedom on earth. This is an assault. And the idea that the left can say, all this is Trump's fault, when the rhetoric that's coming out of people's mouths, they learned on the news, they learned from the left, they learned from politicians like Nancy Pelosi and from the New York Times with their stupid 1619 project. It's a lie. It is a lie. This whole idea that the police are targeting blacks, it's just not factual. It's just not happening. So when you have guys like this, NBA millionaire, this guy LeBron James, who should be a role model to people, he should be a guy that kids look up to and say, yeah, that I can do better than where I was born, and I can rise up like this guy did. Instead, he's teaching them this kind of whining victimhood, this kind of, we're all oppressed idea that just he himself is a disproof of the fact,
Andrew, what are you going to do for the NFL? Because they laid out their plan for week 1 of social injustice content. They're going to have social justice messages embedded in the end zone, and then warm-up T-shirts and helmet decals, which can say one of 4 things: stop hate, it takes all of us, end racism, or Black Lives Matter. Are you going to not watch the NFL now?
I'm not going to watch the NFL, and I'm a huge football fan. I love the NFL. I'm done. I'm done. Any one player kneels and doesn't get fired and doesn't get taken off the field, I'm done. And I won't even turn it on until I'm sure that's not happening. I think
this
they
is
must
going
be
beyond kneeling. With these warm-up T-shirts and helmet decals, I mean, it's pretty bad.
It's terrible. It's terrible messaging, and all I can think is maybe they think they're going to follow the Hollywood model, where they get their money from foreign audiences, even while Americans desert them. I don't think that's going to work, because these are American sports, and the rest of the world has their own sports, and they're not going to be paying attention and listening to this. I think this is going to be a case of go woke, go broke.
He is Andrew Klavan, podcaster, Another Kingdom Season 3, screenwriter of the movie Gosnell, the trial of America's biggest serial killer as well. Andrew Klavan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you. And he joins us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Dan Horn, co-owner of Horn McGowan Insurance Agency, a third-generation family-owned business founded in 1959 and a new customer of Signature Bank. When our previous bank couldn't secure a PPP loan for our business, we were referred to Signature. Right from the start, we were well taken care of. Our account was handled by one of the founders of the bank who offered real help in our time of need. Signature Bank is a better fit for